All right, everyone, strap on or strap in. Yeah.
Let us begin.
Whatever, you know what to do. I won't judge.
We came to win, battle us, that's a sin. Hello, I bring you tidings of good beer and better gospel. I'm Matt.
And I'm Tommy. Welcome to, I've already lost count. This is episode 3? Yeah.
Yeah, because we went straight to 2.
Like you do. So welcome. Yeah, episode 3 of 3 Beer Gospel. Hey. This is like our episode equivalent of like a golden birthday. Do you know what those are?
Yeah, where it's on the date.
Yeah, like, so for me, like, my birthday's on the 26th, so, like, when I turned 26, that was somehow special, even though I don't even remember at all, so I guess it wasn't that special. But this is going to be special.
Let's start off differently, too. Like, last time, I didn't say what I was drinking.
Ooh.
This is Rogue Colossal Quad, an Imperial IPA. See, last time I was drinking, I only have one, because it wasn't very good. And I also was feeling kind of tired, I think. But it was called Flute Loops, or Flute Loop, by Fretboard. It was one of those fruity IPAs, but had no fruit in it.
Yeah, that's
just the hops tasted like fruit.
Yeah,
it wasn't very good.
Yeah, well, good. And
yeah, so I don't know if you like fruity IPAs. Maybe it's your thing, but I just wouldn't care for it.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep up with tradition of not only saying what I'm drinking, but drinking something that was given to me by somebody else. That's been a running theme on the show. And I realize I'm in mirror image, so this is backwards. So I don't know why I'm showing it to you anyway. But anyway, Mad Tree rounding third. So they're a red IPA they make for baseball season. Probably it might be my favorite city beer brewed in this city. I mean, if Rounding Third was a city, it would be my favorite city. There. We're doing so well already.
I tried to make sense of that in my head.
Don't. It hurts. Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, so in our Origins episode, you were actually the one who provided me with my episode beverages.
No.
Hence how loopy I got towards like the last hour and a half or so.
Yeah, that was an accident.
A happy accident, though. I was happy.
Yeah.
I was not so happy the next morning. But...
No. Imagine you weren't.
Yeah, I got up and drove 3 hours to my father-in-law's farm to help him get his, among other things, like help him get his four-wheeler detached from the earth and the mud that was in. But anyway.
That'll wake you up.
What's that?
That'll wake you up.
And need another nap. And then, like I said, last episode, beer gifted by a friend Jeremy. This time by my younger brother Andy. Gave me one of these. So I don't know if he knew it was one of my favorites or if he was just feeling nice, but yeah. So I guess if you would like to be mentioned on an episode, give me beer, and you will be at least my official beer sponsor.
You can send it through the mail. It's illegal, but only if you get caught.
Yeah, fortunately, I think at least most of our audience is still local. Though I did find out through the analytics, we apparently have at least one listener from Germany. So it's either someone from Germany or someone who just uses a VPN and makes it look like they're in Germany.
Oh, that's entirely possible.
But I think I think that's the case. But then I think then there's also someone actually in Germany who's also using a VPN to say they're in the States. So
how'd you figure that?
that's just my assumption.
Oh, and by the way, this is.
But I'm glad it sounded convincing. But so to our one theoretical, at least, German listener, Dankeschön, Prost.
What's their name? Is it a he or a she?
It doesn't give their name. It just like.
I'm saying like let's imagine.
Oh, okay. A couple of people I know will appreciate this. Karl-Heinz Gustav.
Okay.
So Karl, Prost.
Karl with a K?
Of course. Natürlich. That's German for naturally.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, if you live in Cincinnati long enough, you at least learn enough German by osmosis, I think. Or just by ordering enough things off the menu at Hofbrauhaus a few times. But. Oh, and also, I think this is the first time we've recorded an episode since we actually, like, released stuff. Like, I think at our last recording, like, nobody even knew about it yet. We didn't have like the Facebook group or nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's been going really cool.
Yeah, I haven't been on the Facebook group that much. Like, I think I spend all my emotional interaction energy on my family, and then
understandable.
And I think I'm like other people,
and other people like, on social media.
Like I really do want to like talk to people, and I want to. Here's the thing: I really enjoy having like meaningful responses to bullshit comments. That's my favorite, actually.
That is pretty fun.
I'm like, yeah, how we make a quilt out of that turd? We're not even trying to polish it anymore. We're changing its whole shape.
Exploring the medium.
Yeah,
all the
that's
possibilities.
An interesting challenge. I enjoy it. No, but I also like hearing what people like, where people are, where they're coming from, and yeah, I wish I would have so far had been able to have the energy to do that more. I knew I'd be phoning it in if I did it, and I don't want to do that. Just be like, hey, thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Smile with your face.
Yeah, and honestly, I've been like posting a lot of stuff, and like we've been getting like some comments on things, but I kind of feel bad because like I want to discuss more, but usually like by the time I'm like reading the comments, it's either like it's late at night and I'm like trying to go to sleep, just like looking through Facebook, and so I'll try to give some like thoughtful like comment, but most of the time it'll if I say anything, it'll be like, oh wow, good thoughts, or usually it's just I'll just like their comment, and so sorry everybody. We really like seriously every single like reaction and comment or whatever, like really like it's just really cool to me that anyone's like interacting with this at all so far. So
I'm feeling pressured now. I couldn't place it. Well, I'm not wearing a hat right now, and because I don't know.
Well, I'm also not. This is actually, I think it's the first time we've recorded that I didn't have anything on my head. But
oh yeah, I feel more comfortable with the hat on, but I felt the need to be more like visually vulnerable. Not naked. I'm not getting naked.
Oh.
But I'm naked without my hat.
Okay, I was planning on that later. Here, I'll scratch it from the notes. No more.
Yeah. And time. I might be wearing the same T-shirt I was wearing in the last video.
Yeah, see, I actually intentionally wore this T-shirt, but again, forgetting that because the way I'm recording, I'm in like mirror image, so you couldn't even read it anyway. But it's to plug another podcast, like the Bible for Normal People. It's for those of you who don't read backwards, says all theology has an adjective. That might be something we explore later. Let's find out. But yeah, so thanks to everybody. I think we even had, I think I just saw like just before I hopped on, like someone joined the group who is like someone like complete stranger. Like I think it's someone from a completely different Facebook group.
That's awesome.
That we're it, and it's I think is that's what I'm assuming, because like I checked like the person's profile and saw like what like friends in common, like mutual friends, I guess is the term for that we had, and they were all people that I had friended like from it was like the Heretic Happy Hour Facebook group. So, and I'd posted a couple things in there. So
and I don't know what to do with that. Yeah. Because like for the longest time, even up until I think like recording this, like actually for a real long time, this was just an idea. Mm-hmm. We're like, yeah, we should do that. And then we never did it. Mm-hmm.
And those were still good times. But yeah.
And we kept accidentally having podcasts. like we'd be talking.
That we didn't record. Yeah.
Right. But it was as if we were recording. Mm-hmm. I mean, like one that we recorded and then something happened to it and like half the audio was gone. But then other times where we're sitting on the porch at your old house and we're like, that was good. Yeah, we should really record.
Yeah, or it'd be like hanging out at Mad Tree or Nine Giant or something, and like I'm glad. Like I hope some people within like heard what we were talking about. I think there were a few times we definitely made some like neighboring tables like feel a little awkward. But I don't know if that was necessarily what we were saying or just the volume at which we were saying it.
No, there was something about shoot, I said something. I was making a absurd point, but what I said was much louder than anything I had said previously, and it was something about like I don't remember. But it was like something you don't say loud enough for other people to hear, like if you're saying it for real or if you're kidding. It was something that had to do with like. I don't know. But I kept saying things that Nine Giant a little too loud at the wrong times. Like I was putting my volume emphasis on the quiet things. And there was somebody sitting right behind us, and I think we were saying things about a particular church at the time, and he looks kind of familiar, so I think maybe he went there. Because the place is so big, if you see somebody there a lot, you still don't recognize them, but they look familiar. Mm-hmm. And I noticed he was kind of like, he was still engaging in his conversation, but was leaning towards ours.
Yeah, he was definitely interested. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
We need to go back there, especially now that they're going to be doing hopefully closer seating.
Yeah. And now that I'm like, as of today, like this is a big thing for me. Speaking of like not wearing anything on my head, today was a big day for me. For those of you like who haven't been all caught up on the speed on my health issues, I had a diagnosis of melanoma back in, when was that? February? Yeah, February. I had like this weird, gross tumor thingy on the back of my head here. Had surgery, according to the scans.
Like this big.
Yeah, I think it was like 5 or 6 centimeters across. Like for those of you who aren't watching on video, this big is 5 to 6 centimeters.
I think that's bigger. I think we both were wrong.
Well,
they 5 to 6 centimeters.
Yeah, they measured it, and I think the measurement was like 5.5 or 6, and it was like 1.5 centimeters thick, and they said like, remember the dermatologist was like, hey, usually when we measure melanoma, it's in millimeters, and like anything over 4 is like really bad. You're like 1.5 centimeters deep. I'm like, oh, but fortunately it was growing out and not in. But I'm getting way more detailed in my brief recap than I intended. But
I'm feeling a lot of editing coming on your part.
See, I don't know, because I didn't edit the last one at all, and I think that worked really good.
Yeah, but we were also like, I'm beating around the bush for some reason.
Well,
I don't know.
We'll work on that.
You know what it is?
Now you're making me beat around the bush. So anyway, at least according to all the scans I had, like MRI and all that, before surgery, I had surgery in early March, and they think they may have already like taken all of it out, at least what was showing up on the scans. But I'm still doing immunotherapy. Listen to our last episode and getting caught up. But anyway, so.
For some reason, when you said how big it was, and they said it was cut off and blah, 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 and then I imagined it being adopted by a nice family.
You know, I hope so. I hope Herman,
Yeah.
who I named it Herman. I hope Herman is happy wherever he is, probably like in a lab somewhere in formalin or whatever they do with those things. But maybe he was adopted by a nice pathologist or lab tech. I don't know. But so yeah, so I had this like. So basically, this part of my head has just been like gross, either from the tumor itself or from like the hole after they cut everything out. Like basically ever since like last like October or November. So today was actually the very first time I ever went out in public with nothing. Like no hat, no bandages, no gauze, no surgical dressing, nothing. So
does it look like a normal wound now, or?
Yeah, it's like healing up really good. I'll go ahead and show the people, like just anyone, like it's not like really bad, but anyone who's like, I mean, it basically just looks almost like if you like skinned your knee, only bigger at this point.
Anybody's terrified by salami.
Yeah. So in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, you should have gone like that. Oh, look at that.
Is that showing up? I can't see what's.
It's not that bad.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So that was.
That looks like that's impressive. I mean, before you were like, if you poked real hard, you'd probably feel your skull.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like there's tissue there.
Yeah, and like my surgeon, like, is originally he was saying, yeah, you know, we'll do a skin graft later, just kind of, you know, just matter of fact, like, yeah, that's going to happen. But when I saw him like about a week and a half after my surgery, maybe it was 2 weeks after the surgery, like it was already healing so well. He's like, I don't think you even need to do a skin graft if you don't want. So I'm like, all right, one fewer procedure. Cool.
Yeah, who wants an optional skin graft?
Yeah.
I'll take 2.
Yeah, because it kind of is it too, because you know they have to remove the skin from somewhere. So
yeah, no extra skin grafts, please.
yeah. So actually things on the whole cancer front have kind of like calmed down. Like I'm just doing my immunotherapy now, and I'm getting like pretty much 0 side effects from that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I do have my next round of scans on Monday, so I guess we'll see. But anyway, probably about 10 minutes ago, something you were saying. Speaking of church. Aha.
Oh.
Speaking of segues.
Well, I did want to. Okay, so I think I figured it out. I need things figured out. Like,
yes.
If I don't have figured out, like, just a little bit. Like, I'm always trying to figure it out. Okay,
yeah,
so
I'm glad to be along for the ride. So.
I'm not wearing a hat, which is by choice, and I'm actually having like a decent post-hat hair day.
Oh yeah.
I did have one up. Yeah. Normally it's like this does like a fluke thing, and I get like this Bob's Big Boy little swirl. But that's not, or this is off topic, but like I'll get this little fluke that goes like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like I'm trying to hide a giant bald spot. It's like, no, it just like this happened this morning, and it won't go anywhere else now. So I'm not wearing a hat. I had a very vulnerable, like 3 a.m. like recording.
Yeah, that was really good.
I don't regret it at all, but like, but now it's kind of like I feel like I'm wearing my underwear on the outside.
Like Quail Man.
Yeah. And it's like, this is more awkward than I thought it would be. No, but now I gotta settle. And church.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so, and now that I'm about to derail us from the conversation topic I was trying to get us on. So, fortunately, it hasn't been as long between recordings this time. So I think between our Origins and episode 2, it was about 6 months. But I think it's only been about 3 months now. So we're like,
was it 6?
Yeah, it was like September to like March or something.
Good night. We sucked at that.
No, life sucked at it. I don't know.
Right.
But
life was a full-time job.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it still is. We just like, I guess, worked up enough vacation time.
Or we're just getting used to it.
Or I'm just shirking responsibilities or something. That could be as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the other thing. Like when we recorded that second episode, I think like everyone is super interested in our personal lives, which is why I'm making that assumption.
Yeah.
Which is why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still in the we still haven't sold the other house, but we're under contract again. Hope that keeps up.
Wait, again.
Yeah, because I remember when we recorded last time, we just found out that contract that we were in 3 months ago was about to fall through.
Oh, so we shouldn't record till you sell your house. Maybe that's.
Damn it! All right. Well.
No, but Jesus may have sold your house.
That's right. Because I was pressured into asking him to do that, which.
Now I do want to unpack that later.
Yeah.
Because I have thoughts, and it's like I don't disagree. That's what happened.
But like how we got there, maybe.
Yeah, I still think that we should probably just talk about it either now or later, or stop. We should either talk about it now or stop talking about it and then finish it later.
Like, well, let's stop talking about it now. That way, it's a teaser.
Ooh, yeah, stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. So, church, eh?
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, especially the one we went to.
Yeah. No.
And
okay.
I actually am like I don't know if this is like breaking news, but I actually am at the point where I think I am saying I went there. Like I don't really feel like I'm going there. Part of it because like I'm literally like haven't gone ever since the pandemic. And, we were watching services online and whatever. And like, I mean, the kids still watch like the kids videos and stuff, but like they started services again, and like we just haven't felt the need to go back.
I'm kind of wondering if we should. Well, I was gonna say I'm kind of wondering if we should say the name of the church at some point soon. We haven't. I don't think we've been.
Well, I kind of said the name of it in the Origins episode, but it was in like a really stupid, awkward joke. So if anyone picked up on it, but
and I think there's only one in Cincinnati with that name, but other places it's kind of.
Oh yeah, there's tons of churches with that name. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Yeah.
Because it is like the obvious name for a church if you want it to be like trendy, like and if you started it back in the 90s.
Oh, exactly 90s. Mm-hmm. Well, what's ironic is I'm just you can edit this out if you want to.
I don't want to.
So cross is in the name, and there isn't a single one in the building.
On purpose, even.
Right, and I don't have a problem with that. Like I totally get that, and it makes sense because it'd be like if Jesus called on an electric chair and you had those electric chairs hanging all over in the church, that'd be more weird. Now I say that, and I do have one hanging around my neck inside a fish, but that was a gift from my sister when I was going through a divorce, and I said I want no presents, and she was the only one who gave me a present.
To celebrate her rebellion.
Yeah. And it was the only thing I really needed at the time. So I wear it all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I've seen that necklace. Didn't know the story behind it.
Yeah. And since I almost died in a car accident, and I almost died, I don't know if I almost died, recently. Yeah. But
almost died because yeah.
So because of the first near-death experience,
wicked high heart rate, is that what he called it? Or?
Wicked high blood pressure.
Blood pressure, yeah.
It's almost exact words where, that's wicked high. Are you sure it was real? And I know the top number was I don't remember right now, but I knew for sure what the top number was because I stared at it. It was 200 something, like high 200s. I think it was 270 something, and I look at it, and I know exactly how to put the cuff on.
Mm-hmm.
One, it comes with instructions, and if you don't have it on right, it gives you too low of a blood pressure, or it gives you an error code. So, no error code, and I'm looking at it, and
I'm hoping that wasn't too low.
Right. And so I just saw the top number, and I had just looked up the categories and for what range is what, and I think over 180. There 180 or 190, there isn't more categories. it's just go to the hospital category. Anything above this.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's sure it was real. And yeah, that was what was the original topic?
I think we were talking about a church and whether or not we were going to say the name, and we started kind of talking about the name. And
I just now realized that's weird. That they're very intentional about not having one up in the building, but it's the brand.
Oh, the cross, yeah.
Yeah, you have the word representation of the item that you won't have in the church on the outside of the church. What's the difference between the word and the image?
Oh yeah, because because if the purpose was to not scare people off, who wanted nothing to do with churches, having
they made
name,
it one word, so I guess maybe it doesn't scare people off.
Yeah, but if any like we said, that was the quintessential trendy church name, so that would probably scare some people off, just the fact that it was called that.
Yeah.
But I guess, apparently not, because they're how many, tens of thousands of people, and
I'm gonna put this out there. I just remembered that, okay, I originally had discussed Erin's experience working there, more particularly the process of being let go and that conflict.
Your wife, Erin. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just helping you with the footnotes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told you in the past, but I don't know if I didn't really dwell on it because so they gave her a severance package, which we really needed. And in order to get it, she had to sign. I didn't have to sign it, which is weird. So I'm probably in the clear. She had to sign something saying that she would not say anything publicly disparaging about the organization. She had to sign that paper before they would give her severance package. And she was... So before they would be generous, they had to first know they would not be put in public image hot water.
Okay, so I thought I'd gotten over this, but now I'm getting pissed off all over again.
So I was like...
But I'm over it, so... Yeah.
So I said, look, okay, all you gotta do is just... if you tell the story, just tell it how it was. Be honest. I mean, seriously, if you're honest and it makes them look bad, that's not on you.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I remember from some of the legal media law classes I took in college. The phrase truth is an absolute defense against libel or slander.
Yeah.
It can't be libel or slander if it's the truth.
And it's ridiculous anyway to have that in there, because how are they going to prove that's what didn't happen? I mean, there's just not enough paperwork to cover all of that, unless you say something blatantly false. But then is it really worth the PR issue of taking a former employee to court for talking about their experience? Like, aren't you doubling down on their poor experience at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, that really bothers me that they did that. Like I said, I mean, I'm like I'm over it or whatever, but that.
I kind of get it, because in the age of social media, things can take off like wildfire, and you don't want to slander. I get that, and there's more at stake than just the organization. It's what they do, and so what really bothers me is that here we go. We're coming back to the church thing.
Yeah.
What really bothers me is that that's something that makes sense and is kind of necessary.
Yeah, because I'm thinking
they have like a legal organization, and they have attorneys or an attorney or somebody who goes there who's an attorney if they're a really small church, and they're like, look, to protect the organization and make sure it stays around, these are the kinds of things that are a good idea. I don't like that it's a good idea.
Yeah, because when you talk about, like, say, well, it's necessary, or like, well, necessary for what? Like, what's the point of what the church is doing? To like what are we risking ruining by someone just being honest about their experience there? If it's bad, like, what are we trying to cover up and like protect?
Well, you're trying to protect the. And I'm not saying church, because it doesn't make sense to me to call it's an organization.
Yeah.
So I think that's the problem when a church is kind of seen as an external thing, like almost like another entity. Like, it has a personality. It has goals and aims. It can be injured. We're almost at that point setting it up as like a demigod.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're
kind of outsourcing Christ.
Yeah, and I just want to like say this real quick. So, like, for the people who like we know who do know what church we're talking about, or even if they don't, like like a lot of the things that I have to say, and I've said this like in other conversations about this church, like with my issues with it,
or any church similar.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, like, I'm not necessarily singling this church out, because like most of probably all the things like that I would have a problem with this particular church, like, is true of like so many other ones. So it's not so much like I'm only talking about this one because that's been my experience, or if I talk about any other churches that I've gone to.
And for a time, for both of us, it was a great experience.
Yes, yeah, and I also definitely want to make that clear. And I know we've said before, but I'll keep saying it just because every single church I've ever been to, like, at least like for any like good period of time, like, there were definitely positives about that, and it's part of my story. Is this
and I will say that I think this church does what it does better than any other church I know of.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that whole thing is kind of a halfway house to something more real. Mm-hmm. And I don't claim to know what that is, because I don't know if we've seen it yet. Kind of feel like believers have been in like a centuries-long maturing process.
Yeah. Just along with humanity,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody who goes to a church, like if you're listening to this and you go to a church and you're like, this is weird, these guys are totally against churches, and like we're not really, like I think I can say that both of us where we are is if something brings you closer to God and you're able to see, I don't know how to say this clearly without writing it. Whenever I write it, it's more clear. So there's God, there's us as individuals and other people. And if church helps you see all of those in the others and helps you love all of those more, then like I almost don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like what kind of church. I think I'm getting close to not caring. I very almost nearly don't care. Because you can't like if you're going to a Satanist church, right? And it's helping you love people more. Like really, actually, then like it's gotta also be helping you love God more. And I'm just like,
yep,
they just really missed their mark and hit a better one. Like as an organization.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, certainly
the comments that we could get from that.
I'm looking forward to it. But
we might not be invited back to certain functions.
But like you said, I mean, like the way I would put it is like you said, anyone who does find that beneficial, like, yeah, I mean, we're not trying to take anything away from anyone. Like if that's like, I'm just saying,
to give you more, if anything.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm just saying for me, like where I'm at, I don't. I mean, if I'm completely honest, like, I mean, I don't want to say I don't view church as beneficial at all. I mean, because obviously, you know, like I said, I've benefited from it a lot. But just for where I'm at right now, like, so what really got me thinking about this was, you know, when the whole pandemic started a little over a year ago, and like churches and everything shut down, and so we just started like watching services, like they had them on YouTube and their website and stuff, and you know, and I will say, like, that is something that this church does very well, is like their whole like media production, like even like leading up to this, like they were already, like before the pandemic was even a thing, like they were set up for it.
Yeah, and we're not talking like doing it well for a church.
Yeah, like they had a series on, what is it, Amazon Prime?
Yeah,
like an actual legit series that they put together.
Wasn't bad at all.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily my thing, but I was watching. I was like, this is really well made. Like, this looks like a series that belongs on Prime.
Yeah, it was kind of like reality TV, but like actually better than reality TV.
Yeah. But so I'm just like watching the services online, and it seems like part of, like, not just them, but a lot of churches, like, and churches like by the more like, you know, conservative fundamentalist like crowd will actually get like chastised for this, for like trying to look too much like the world, you know, like being too hip, you know, and watering down the gospel. Human. Yeah. Like, when was Jesus ever about all that? Except all the time. But so, but I almost felt like they were so successful at fitting in with the culture that it almost like looped back on itself, to where I realized it. Like, I was watching a video that said, oh, this is just like all these, like, because I've watched, like, you know, videos from other people, whether it's like, you know, Pete Enns, Greg Boy, like other people we've talked about. I'm like, this seems like it's on that level, but I'm actually getting more out of these other things that I'm watching that are not my church.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so they've sort of, okay, you've succeeded in making yourself fit in, like, with everything else, but that had the, I guess, you know, side effect of, you know, fortunate or unfortunate, depending on your perspective, of me realizing, like, okay, I don't need to be getting this from you anymore. Or did I ever actually need to be getting it from you? I mean, yeah, it was beneficial when I was.
Yeah.
Like, it was beneficial when I was, but... So I basically, kind of came to the conclusion that... And through that realization and just, like, other conversations I'd had with people... Because, that was another big, like, topic of conversation, like, when things started shutting down, like, when, in certain states or certain areas, like, churches actually weren't allowed to meet anymore. Like, here in Ohio, I remember DeWine, him, like, saying, like, okay, I'm not going to touch church services, I'm going to strongly recommend you don't, but I'm not going to, like, I guess he just didn't want to,
Well, yeah, Ohio doesn't have the budget to handle lawsuits from every church.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Kentucky did either, but... Oh well.
Wait, they pulled that?
I thought I think there actually were, if I'm remembering correctly, there were instances like they were at least doing stuff like I remember reading stories about like in some areas in Kentucky they were actually like sending like police out to like get license plates from like cars in the parking lot or some shit like that. I don't know. Well, but anyway, so
have you seen most of Kentucky? The cops are very bored.
Yeah, and they're anyway. I'm getting flashbacks from my Amazon job. So there was that whole debate on, like, just politically, like the religious freedom aspect of it, but then also just, I say like there's politically and then there's like real life, like that angle of it, like so many people view church, like I guess so many Christians view church as such a fundamental, necessary expression of the faith
and of their politics.
That too.
Yeah, because if you infringe on it, now you're trampling on the Bill of Rights and all of that. And okay, that thing is worded so vaguely in so many places. Yeah. I don't know how you can claim it specifically says anything about anything.
Yeah, and I have thoughts on that, but I think I'll save it for if we ever talk politics.
It seems like a rough draft, doesn't it? They're like, it took them like months to get that thing agreed upon or whatever. I don't really know, but I'm sure it was a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like separation of church and state. You mean like they can't be in the same place at the same time? No, like, what do you mean?
That's the thing. That phrase isn't actually in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. That was in like a letter from Jefferson to...
Right, okay. That's
but that concept of...
Shall make no law establishing a religion.
Yeah, and that's all it was. It never said... Yeah, like I said, I don't want to start into that, or I'll keep going and start yelling and wake my family up. But...
Yeah, just turn around, look at the wall, look... It's so real looking. Look at the tapestry behind you. Yeah, those are happy colors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very nearly Pride
yeah,
month.
There we go. We could say it's for Pride Month. Yeah, it's still June. Yeah. So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so I would be having discussions, calm discussions, putting it politely, with other Christians about, churches being shut down and how big a deal that actually is, because I was trying to make the point of, like there's more to being a Christian than like going to a building on Sunday morning and singing some songs and listening to some dude talk,
And the building is closed. The church, you can't shut the church down.
And I was trying to make that point is like especially since, the point ostensibly, again, you can debate whether you think it is or not, but for the sake of this discussion, the idea is like keeping people safe and healthy. So basically loving other people and like, okay, this is the chance for the church to actually like be the church and like love people and care for the safety of our community. And where it's like, fuck that. I want to go to my building and, but again, okay, fine. If that's what you want to do. And like I said, something I've tried to maintain from since this whole like pandemic thing started is like I realize I don't actually know enough about pandemics, viruses, or like any of the other angles like economics or whatever to really have too strong of an opinion on it. And most other people who are arguing about it don't either, but they'll argue anyway.
Now, I'll tell you what I've noticed recently, since I became a stock and crypto chart nerd, looking at things. Right around the time the pandemic took off running, there was also just a pattern in the stock chart where there was going to be a dip, right? A slight correction, but it happened the exact same time as the pandemic. So part of all of the hesitancy of people getting together, I'm sure it was economic, because if a ton of people get sick when the market is just dying to take a correction anyway, it can go, like, after the correction, it can bounce back, or it can take the opposite angle and the math still works and it can just keep chugging down. And now normally it'll just bounce back up unless something horrendous happens, like a pandemic.
Yeah.
So they're trying to save people's lives, and they're also trying to save people's lives, because if
at
the
the same
economy
time
tanks that hard, like, people can't pay for stuff, they get sicker, like, it's just So I think they did overreact, but there was a reason for it.
Yeah, like I said, but I tried to keep that mindset of, like, I don't actually know enough to really say, much less like judge other people. So I'm trying not to, like, but in like this instance, it's like I don't necessarily have a problem with, okay, that's what you really want to do, is to, like, go meet at your church, like, like I said, I'm not going to try to stop you or whatever, but just knowing, like, your reasoning is like, no, this is something we have to do. Like, people saying things like, God is bigger than this pandemic. It's like, yeah, he is, but
what does he stand for?
Yeah. But we've conflated the church with God. Like, and they're not always the same. At least, in the way people think about it. And, like, so just thinking of it as, well, if I'm going to be a Christian, if I'm going to follow God, I have to go to my church on Sunday and be part of the service and sing the songs and give my money and all that, and listen to probably a man talk, because
because women have periods to get emotional, and therefore they're going to stop.
I guess I don't know.
So you can't trust them the rest of the time either.
Yeah,
that's what it's got to be.
Yeah,
and God doesn't have ovaries, neither did Jesus. So,
well, I can't argue with that, because I don't want to.
Except all the times where God is described in womanly terms.
Yeah. Well,
and where Jesus did some really womanly things for the time. Yeah.
But just that idea that. Yeah, so after having those conversations with people and trying to say, like, no, this isn't all there is to being the church, but so many people seem to think, like, no, this is actually necessary. But then, like I said, like, so that kind of got my brain thinking about, like, well, why is church that important? Why do we see it as that important? Like, is it really? But basically came to the conclusion after, and this was after, like weeks and weeks of, thinking about it, and, and after not going, and, like I said, watching all these videos on YouTube and realizing, oh, this is kind of like a lot of other things. Like, basically where I'm at now is, I'm not saying there's no reason or no importance in, like, attending a church, but also recognizing everything that you can get from a church that's beneficial, you can get other places too. Like, a church is not the only place to get, because that's the things people, like, other Christians would bring up to me, like, this is why we need to go to church, like, for things like fellowship and, good solid teaching from the word. And it's like, that's debatable whether you're actually getting that or not, or how important that even is. But yeah, I mean, you can get.
Why do we assume the church is the best place to get solid teaching about the word?
Yeah, and
what I mean? Like, you don't know what they got in seminary. Were they a C- student? Are we getting C- sermons?
Or do they proudly, like, brag about flunking out of seminary? Like some pastors I've heard, not necessarily flunking out, but anyway.
Working.
Yeah, but like you can get
very hard.
Yeah, like you can get teaching anywhere. Like you can fellowship with other believers, and that's the other thing. Like I don't even see it necessary to specifically have fellowship just with other believers. I'm like, just fellowship with people. But
now, so I've been thinking about so something's been on my mind lately.
Before you get into that, I'm gonna get into my second beer.
I already got it in my second one.
Yeah.
Am I a mirror image? Or just
no, you're regular.
Regular.
Good for you. You've been drinking your prune juice.
Sorbitol. That's why prune juice works.
We are old.
No,
it's official. We're talking about prune juice on our podcast. We are officially old.
We're talking about sorbitol. It's different. I give that to my kids. It's fruit sugar, which is naturally difficult to digest, which is why if you eat a bunch of strawberries or blueberries, you can shit your brains out accidentally. Speaking of accidentally shitting your brains out, right before...
I'd love to.
Yeah, wouldn't you? Right before I got on here, I was reading a news story. There was going to be the ultimate slip and slide game show that was going to be on, co-hosted by Ron Funches. If you don't know who that is, look him up. He reminds me of a more chill Eric Barnes, our friend. More chill, maybe high all the time, and black, also very feminine. It's maybe not at all like Eric Barnes. But anyway, they're filming this. They have 5 days left. I know what it is. The guy's really into superheroes and comics and stuff. That's what. And he's just funny because he doesn't give a shit, but like he makes a living doing that. They had 5 days left in the filming, and 40 people got Giardia. Because it turns out when you film a giant water slide show that is on the ground on somebody's farm, all the animals that have pooped there have left Giardia for you.
That was nice of them.
Yeah, so they get it's in the mud, and they're left in the water a little bit. The people were shitting their brains out. They said the ultimate slip and slide show turned into the ultimate shit show. And I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect is that? Like, there will never be another story where that works so well.
That's really good.
Yeah. And it sounds like a show I want to watch.
Yeah, now it is. But
yeah. And like you're trying to how close to pooping his pants is that person?
Well, can we see it starting now? Yeah. So what are you drinking there?
This is, I got a Rogue mix pack at Costco. Boils down to $8 a 6-pack, which is really good. It's Rogue Newport Days Hazy Pale Ale. And they've got this thing on the back of the can. I don't know if you've seen this. This is kind of new. It's like it's a flavor pentagram. Where they show you, I think they got the idea from Leafly, the app where they do the flavor profile.
So they got the idea from Satan.
Right. No, but this pentagram is right side up. So is that Jesus? Is that Michael?
No, that's actually, I think that's witches.
The good witches. It's a protection symbol. I don't know.
I don't give nearly the amount of shits I used to about that.
But this is so far. Summer beers kind of miss the mark for me, right? Especially when it's like a summer IPA.
Yeah.
But this tastes. It doesn't. Sometimes it tastes like suntan lotion, or it just tastes too much like the thing. This tastes like it goes with the smell of water, like lake or ocean water. And it tastes like sand, but in a good way.
I don't understand. I shall have to try it sometime. But yeah, so I'm drinking Great Lakes IPA backwards. So this one was, I guess, indirectly provided to me. It was so last weekend, as part of the whole like moving process and like all the other shit we've been going through, some friends of ours organized like a big like work day at our house, which Matt and our other friend Jeremy, they were sort of in, I guess, on the pre-work day.
Yeah, like I came for bad practice.
They helped us put in some very important cabinets that were going to be very necessary for the next day, like getting things organized and everything.
And they were symbolic.
Yeah, like that was
like those cabinets didn't get trimmed and in place. Like it was just symbolic that the next day was going to be terrible.
Yeah, because I'm imagining like the next day, like with how awesome it was and how much we got done, but like how much more of a pain it would have been to have to also do that, like first thing in the morning. And yeah. So anyway, so again, thanks to you and thank you, Jeremy. So anyway, so I hesitate to say like how this was indirectly provided to me. So as part of our preparation for having like we had almost like 20 people helping out, which was awesome. Got so much shit done. But Steph, my wife, was like, we need to get some things like make sure we like we obviously had things covered like coffee and like water for everyone, but like she loves, like she has her own little espresso machine. So it's like, oh, I can make like cappuccinos and lattes and stuff. And she's actually like, oh, you should go to the store and get like a bunch of beers and, some different ones. And so, and she looked at me and she's like, I think beverages are our love language. And I could not agree more. So we bought a bunch of beer for everyone, but the problem was it was like one of the like hottest days we've had. And also I think a lot of people who were over just didn't drink or didn't really, or even if they do, it's not like a big thing for them. So like nobody had any beer.
That's surprising that no one had any.
Well, we also didn't tell them we had it. So this is part of what we bought. So if there's anyone listening who was there, sorry, and come over anytime and I will give you some beer. So
you left that part out of the story when you told me. And I really, really wanted to come over that night when you said, like, you're like, all these people were here, didn't drink any of our beer. There was enough for all of them.
Yeah, I think.
Would you like to come over and have some? And I was like, I'm too tired.
Well, and that's the thing, like, because I'm imagining, thinking, like again, if any of the people who were there are listening now, if I was wrong, please forgive me. And like I said, seriously, come over, I will give you some beers. But I just always, like I said, it was just so hot. And like I said, most people there, like, didn't really seem necessarily, like, really big beer drinkers. But I have the feeling, like, if at any point during the day, if I would have asked someone what they wanted to drink, it would have either just been coffee or water. That's, like, probably all people really wanted. But
yeah, if you're not getting enough water when it's hot like that, then you have beer, like, you just get tired and stupid.
Yeah, which, But anyway, so...
I was like, it has its place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So back to the thing I interrupted you saying.
Yeah. So it was something that's been on my mind. This relates to church. So with the pandemic, and I don't have any numbers to back this up. It's just like a strong gut feel. Numbers will follow, I'm sure, because whenever I get that feeling, like something happens later to validate it. So America was already on its way to, like, quote unquote post-Christian, because Europe goes first, California says us too, and then the rest of our country goes along eventually. That's a science. That's a history thing for you. Like Europeans going around South America to California. California's been first in a lot of stuff. Did it wrong a lot of times first, but anyway. So I feel like the pandemic sped that up because, like you said, like watching services on TV, or if your church didn't have that, or at least didn't have it done very well, it didn't mean as much to you, and so then people were kind of left realizing that kind of accidentally, quickly, like, I don't really need that. Like, I like it maybe, but I don't need it. And so that, in a weird way, kind of moved a lot. I feel like it moved a lot of Christians into a post-Christian mindset. Not that they lost their faith, but they started asking questions like, okay, what does it really look like? Like, if I can't have that thing that felt like it was propelling me along, what does it look like if it's just mine? Like, it's not, my faith isn't part of the organization's faith. It's my faith, which is part of it. And now it's that person's faith isn't part of that one location. Now you kind of feel like, well, I'm kind of part of everybody who believes or maybe doesn't believe, because we all went through the pandemic. We were all in the same boat. It was like one of the most unifying things. And we had the president who was just really suited for not leveraging the most unifying thing since the World Wars. Do you know how bad you need to be at your job to fuck up the most unifying thing that is just handed to you? You can't do shit about it.
Yeah, because even like, or I guess more recently,
you
like
have to actively,
yeah,
intentionally work against it.
Yeah, because you even think like 9/11, like even someone like Bush, like he didn't fuck that up.
No. And he was polarizing.
Right. And his solution was, hey, let's go invade a country that had nothing to do with it. And he still
Yeah,
it still worked.
They made it around totally because they started tugging on their leash a long time ago. They were America's lapdog in that area. We funded all that stuff. Reason why they had weapons of mass destruction, they did actually have them originally. They were already gone when we went over there. The reason why they had them originally is because America looked the other way while they were making them, because they were our ally harassing Iran, so we didn't have to. And then they're like, he invades Kuwait. That was his main mistake. He invaded Kuwait, and here's the thing: the Pentagon gave him the unofficial okay. He's like, so we might invade Kuwait. It's kind of what he said. You read between the lines, kind of thing. And they're like, we kind of are going to change the subject right now. And so that's the back channel unofficial. Yeah, go ahead. It's fine with us.
Nice.
And then he did. We're like, yeah, we never said it was okay. And he's like, but we never said it was okay. It's like,
true. Yeah. So yeah, it's like, yeah.
It always ends up in history at some point, a little bit. All right, so with all of that, like, quickly becoming post-Christian, now reaching people who aren't church people, who didn't go to church, it just feels like somehow we quickly got to a place where you couldn't leverage somebody's extended family context of faith in some way in their recent past. So that you couldn't use, now it's harder to use Bible language to attract people because it's just outside their context. Even believers who weren't immersed in it. They're more immersed in their regular life than they were in a church environment. during the pandemic. So now even with people who are used to going to church, you're speaking like a dual language. And it's like, how do you share the gospel? How do you share the good news without using like Bible language? So it's kind of like, so Jesus didn't have the New Testament when he was preaching. Mm-hmm. He was using people's local context, which was Old Testament scriptures like Hebrew Bible stuff. And, but interesting, that was his context, but all of his teaching stories were not from the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. They were parables that he made up. And what did they all use? They all utilized circumstances people either had lived through, or they had witnessed, or had somehow been adjacent to them. It was all regular life stuff.
Yeah, it was all like common experience, like a lot of agriculture stuff, or family things, or wedding parties. Or
the missing coins, which were probably like wedding coins on a necklace. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why she was so distraught, and why the celebration when she found them, it was kind of like losing a wedding ring and finding it again. And there's no mention of her husband, so she could have been a widow, which makes it even more important. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, like, how do you? First of all, what is the gospel when it's not in a churchy context or churchy language? Because we're already at a point where it's harder to make the point with that now. And I didn't know. I don't know what that means. And then I was listening to an audiobook, Rob Bell and some other guy. And it's called Jesus Wants to Save Christians. I love that title.
Oh, Godspeed to him.
Now, I haven't gotten to the point in the book where they make that point. Hello? Night. Love you. You too. Bye.
Good night.
See, I told him earlier that if he says anything too loud, it'll end up on the recording. And so he did that because he totally wants to be on the recording.
All right, you made it, little guy.
Yeah.
That was Owen?
Yeah. Before I came
he sounds
down,
so much. I just realized how long it's been since I've seen him. He sounds so much older.
He's super tall. He's real skinny.
Yeah.
He hasn't gained weight in the last year, but he's got taller, which is a problem. He's just stretched out.
Yeah, it's happening to my son too.
And I don't know if it's stress or his medication is making him not as hungry. We're not really sure, but it's concerning. Before I came down, he said, he's like, "Have fun with Tommy." He never says that. He never says stuff like that. I was like, "Oh, well, thank you."
Oh. Well, I appreciate that. Tell him we did.
Yeah. So, what does church look like? What is the good news? And what does church look like if we lose the churchy context and pull a Jesus and use people's everyday I said, "Hey, Jesus." And
which one, though?
I like that question.
I just want to make sure I'm pulling the right one.
Oh. You don't want to pull the wrong Jesus. No.
Yeah, not the white Swedish Jesus that was in the
I
old
pulled
movie.
the wrong Jesus. I don't know why, but I just imagined like a New Year's Eve confetti popper. But just also evil comes out.
Oh, he pulled the wrong Jesus again.
Again put the wrong.
All right, I swear I'll get it next year. Happy goddamn New Year, everybody.
Do you ever sit and wonder there's a Google algorithm that data mines all of the words we say. try to like figure out where to put it in search results.
I wish I could look into like the brain, I guess, of whatever AI is listening to us right now, just to see what they're thinking. Oh, but I do guys, I mean, I appreciate your son for lots of reasons, but for there recently, kind of like that interruption kind of snapped me out of, because I realized like like just with you talking, like basically where my brain is when you're talking is at least tonight is not so much in the we're having a conversation, but it's like it's almost like I'm listening to a podcast. Like I'm just listening to you. Like I'm.
Oh well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this book, they phrased it, and I don't. So it's just him and his co-author reading the audiobook, and it's a single take. And so they're just sitting in the studio together, and they're like trading off. They're not. They're sometimes reading each other's material, sometimes their own. It's all very casual and awesome. And they get to the point where a couple of the disciples, I forget who, they're on the road to somewhere. If they're on, whether they're on a road for real in real life when it happened or not, like. It's perfect because it kind of shows like they're in transition. Like things are up in the air. They haven't arrived, but certainly left somewhere. Mm-hmm. And the stranger talks to them on the road, and they're basically like, Jesus, what the hell, man? We thought it would be awesome, and then he up and died. And now what? Now we got to go back home. People are going to point and laugh a lot. And we're going to have to, how are we going to catch fish? Like, you're not there to tell us where to throw the net.
True.
And the stranger talks to them, and he says, WTF, mate? Like, here's the real story about Jesus. And he quotes what they say, like, this stranger who they end up realizing is Jesus. And I'll get to that part in a second. But the stranger explained to them and had it make sense using only the Old Testament, using only their previous context. He made the case for the upside down, by human standards, kingdom, and that suffering leads to growth, and that like he had to die to overcome and all that. But what stuck out with me was like he made the point to them and made Jesus make sense. They had been with him, but the stranger made Jesus make sense to them using only their personal context. That stood out to me. Like, yeah. Church for a long time has been inviting people into a new context.
Yeah.
And then showing them how that new context meets their needs.
Right. Yeah, because they'll pay like lip service to the whole, like, you know, come as you are concept, but it's almost implied like, yeah, come as you are, but we'll change you eventually.
Come as you are until you're saved, and then we have rules.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then who you are must become who you were.
What? Who you are must become who you were.
Like what is currently your present tense will in the future have to be your past tense.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There.
Yeah. And then that doesn't make sense. Church is going to really have to wrestle with quantum stuff, quantum physics, quantum science, because like we have a very linear outlook on things, and linear time is just not a thing.
Yeah, which I mean, and
like there is
at least
no
from
you and then after you, it's like it's all the same.
Yeah, really, like to borrow the phrase, like, you know, also like this, the view from my porch. It's like, good luck wrestling with quantum physics when we haven't even got the Bible figured out yet.
Well, we're trying to figure it out for the wrong thing. We're like, here's what it is. we'll figure it out based on that assumption.
Yeah, it's all about, and that's, I know we've already talked about the Bible, and I even did the whole, like, extra quick and dirty free shot of something, whatever, about even more Bible, and...
Maybe they eventually just get called quick and dirty.
Which, for a while, like, I was, like, kind of spitballing ideas for your last one.
Yeah.
Like, a couple of the ideas I had were either, like, perfectly fucked or fucked to perfection.
That puts us in the wrong circles.
Right. Which my wife very wisely pointed out. She's like, I think that's not quite what you're actually going for.
With the FUBAR word, like, that worked perfectly, and it appeals to possibly veterans.
Yeah.
Who, for some reason, like, I feel I have not served.
No, me neither. I'm not even one of those. Well, I thought about it. Listen, no, I never even thought about it. I'm just not even.
I feel like I can relate, and maybe it's my own life circumstances where. But I have even had, like, an ex-Marine assume I had served.
Wow.
I don't know. See, part of it is I think, like, I think I hold my shoulders just, like, a little high, or I move like I'm always ready to take I move like I'm always ready to take a hit.
Well, then again, you've also made a Saudi Arabian think you were Egyptian.
Yeah, so I've been in the Egyptian military, I guess.
Yeah, the best I've done, like, when I was in Germany, when I was in college, I guess some German tourists thought I was a local in Berlin. They started, like, asking me for directions in German. That I took as a huge compliment.
Well, yeah. And you're like, your skin tone and facial hair match.
No, I think it was more like, because that was back in the phase, like, I always wore, like, all black and, like, never wore shorts, so I fit in very well in Berlin.
Like Dieter.
Yeah.
From NL, always wore black.
Yeah, my black clothes were a little baggier than Dieter's, but yeah.
Now, I highly recommend, for a bunch of reasons, Craig Ferguson's old late-night talk show.
Yes.
He had a perverted German voice where he just... where it always sounded like he was about to talk you into something you'd regret. And what made
I would let him.
He was talking to an animatronic gay robot with a mohawk.
Oh, yeah.
And so they would have, like,
naturally
very nearly dirty conversations back and forth. Man, I missed that show.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of inspiration for our thing, where his show was an elaborate deconstruction of the genre it was. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of our goal as well.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of like, in, like, if there was, like, a Venn diagram with, like, Craig Ferguson, Bonfire Sessions, which is another podcast I highly recommend.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet.
Nah, seriously?
I know, I've only got so much time, and the podcast...
All right, Matt and Mike, I hope you're not listening to this. This is embarrassing. But I mean, they're just like us. They're like a Matt and a dude with cancer.
Yeah. Well, I maybe just got new earbuds. I don't know if I'm going to return them or not. They're $40. I don't know. Yeah, it could be my Father's Day present to myself.
Ooh, those are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year I got myself a 6-pack of Arrogant Bastards in a bag of Sour Patch Watermelon.
You know what I bought myself? That's a good call.
Just hell yeah, it is.
Go well together.
They did.
Good. I think last year I got myself an Optimus Prime Transformer.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I never had one when I was little. I had the Ultra Magnus, which was the same truck but different colors and stuff. And by the time I wanted one, they had stopped making them because of that stupid movie. Where freaking scarred children forever.
Yeah, it's like, like in their mind, they're like, oh, we got to like, introduce a whole new line of toys, so we'll get rid of the old. But they did not take into account the psychological damage they were doing to like 8-year-olds everywhere.
I don't know how they missed that, but so there was a miniseries, I think.
Well, because like G.I. Joe did the same thing, and they like killed off Duke in the movie, yeah. And the G.I. Joe movie was just dark and weird. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Was that the one where Cobra Commander and Serpentor have a conflict for power, or was that something else?
I think. I mean, it was made about the same time as the Transformers movie, but did not have the benefit of the Stan Bush soundtrack. So.
Yeah, I got myself a Optimus Prime. There was a mini-series, I think, somewhere called War for Cybertron, and it was kind of a continuation of the storyline. Kind of. I don't know how they worked it in. They eventually brought Optimus Prime back to life, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're like, whoops, our bad.
Yeah, you figure out a way to do that. Yeah.
But then they introduced the concept of the Allspark and all that, which was a great concept for Beast machines. That was a post Beast Wars. I was totally a grown up when I watched all of these, like after the original series. Beast Wars, Beast Machines has like an Allspark, like kind of like religious aspect to it, which was just cool. Way over kids' heads, which is why it lasted only like 2 seasons. But this Optimus Prime figure was like, it looks like the original one, transforms very closely to the original. I bought it for myself, I think last Father's Day. Never opened it. I got it for Christmas from Owen. And I still haven't transformed it yet. I don't know why. I think because like if I do that, then the thing I wanted is now here, and now I don't have that thing to hope for anymore. Which is how hope works, which is why we need to have our hope in something. It sounds backwards, but our hope has to be in something that we can never attain. Like if we hope for a circumstance, once we get that circumstance, we are now hopeless. Yeah, which is why in affluent countries, the suicide rate is so high. And our friend Hakeem, who grew up in South Central LA, that's where he grew up, right?
I know he was born there. I don't remember at what point he moved over here, but yeah, he definitely experienced it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was South Central LA, but he grew up in Death Is Coming For You, LA.
Yeah.
And he was like, PTSD wasn't a thing. And it was, and I think what he meant by that was, when just surviving is what you have to hope for, like, your bar is real low.
Yeah.
And maybe because you never know, like, how long it's going to be until you die, because of the random deaths that happen all the time, you never feel like you've attained the thing you hope for. And so that pursuit of that hope helps you avoid things like PTSD. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something like I think we should explore at some point.
Yeah, hope. I think hope could be another topic soon.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to unpack there.
Yeah, especially like comparing like different like cultures and societies, like the more affluent versus less affluent, and just like why. I mean,
like, is depression a convenience that we are afforded?
Huh. Yeah, because I'd be interested, like looking places like like India or like parts of Africa that are just like so poor. It's like, but like, what's the suicide rate there? Like, what's like, yeah, I don't know, but I think it'd be, yeah. It's a topic I would love to like discuss further, completely uninformed. And
okay, back, and then this is wrapping up that one point. So I think the guy on the road was not like actually like physically Jesus, but what they realized was the spirit of Jesus was present in that person, because it says their eyes were opened and they saw that it was Jesus. But like, were they talking to him with their eyes closed? Like they didn't just suddenly like see Jesus' face. I think eyes being opened meant like they realized now Jesus is in way more people.
Yeah.
So how do we? So Jesus in that context used their context to make the case for Jesus. So how do we use it? How do we basically how do we show that Christ is present in somebody's life already using only things they're familiar with?
Yeah.
And I think it centers on love and oneness, unity, pointing out whenever they tried to leverage strength or an over kind of authority instead of an under kind of authority, like how that eventually fucked them. It's like, yeah, it worked for a while until it totally didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's really intriguing to me. But I think that is where the function of church, like what has been kind of an internal function of church now, like in society, what does that become? Like you move it outside of there and then take it out of all the churchy language context. And it's not a bait and switch where, remember how you had a problem with that? Somebody mentioned, so it's like a bait and switch. We're like, those are bad. No.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. When was this? I mean, I've probably had a problem with that on several occasions, but
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah. Oh yeah, don't.
Because
if you mostly like, I don't want you to throw anyone under the bus for two reasons. One, that's just a shitty thing to do, and two, and maybe more importantly, because I would have to edit that out, and I'm already busy enough.
Yeah, I think I got that out of my system in the first recording.
Yeah, which that's what I'm hoping from here on out. Like I said, like that one, I literally cut it in half. It was 4 hours down to 2, but then episode 2, like I didn't edit anything. It was just we start, we end. That was it. No cuts, nothing.
Yeah. So I feel like there was a lot of nervous energy in the first one.
Yeah.
Or we were just spinning wheels just to calm down, or I was anyway.
And there was also a lot of weakest beer we're drinking is about 10% energy in there as well.
Yeah, that'll cause some problems.
But they were fun problems.
It's like an every now and again problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
it was good for its time, you know.
Yeah, it's a special. It was Oktoberfest.
Yes.
You know, we were culturally appropriating.
Well, I wasn't culturally appropriating. I have German heritage, so.
Okay, well, me too.
All right, we were just appropriate, which is
I'm like German Irish, so I guess I'm exuberant. I'm an exuberant perfectionist.
Yeah, see, I'm like I mean, the name Stewart is Scottish, but like other than that, it's mostly like German, English, Irish, like just general. The way I put my my lineage is like obviously mostly European, hence the whiteness. But the way I put it is all the beer countries, not the wine countries. It's like we don't really have like Italian, French, none of that. It's all like Central Northern European.
Interesting thing about that, for some reason, I really enjoy watching the Irish people try things on YouTube. Yes. And what I've noticed is even when they're sober, they have drunk mannerisms. But it's beer and whiskey drunk mannerisms.
Yeah, well, that's just muscle memory. I mean,
no, but it's like all this like broad gesturing and that it is like a nonverbal communication device with the Irish, and I'm not making that up. When they're making a point and they pause to punch their hand, I'm like, man, you couldn't be more Irish. So that's beer and whiskey drunk, those mannerisms. But then look at France, and the way like to kind of just like tell consonants they can fuck off at the end of a word. Like, whatever, you're all vowels. And that's wine drunk.
It totally is.
Yeah, you're chill, pretty happy because of all the sugar in it, and then
yeah, that's one of my. I took French in high school. That was like one of my favorite things about the pronunciation is like legit. Like you would look at a word, and like someone would ask like, well, how do you pronounce that word? Like particularly, like how do you pronounce like the end of that word? And it's like, well, it depends. What's the next word?
Yeah, that sounds like a drinking problem.
Yeah.
and then Germany is, I guess, like beer drunk and sweet wine. Like that's what that.
Yeah, because then I took German in college, and like German, like it's less like a language and more just like math.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But what I appreciated about German was not only like when you're looking at a word, not only did you know you were going to pronounce every single letter.
You're going to pronounce the shit out of those letters.
Yeah, but also they would be pronounced the same way every time.
That's true.
Which, I mean, especially for someone speaking English, it's like, what the fuck does that even look like? But then one of my favorite things about the German language, just is kind of, I think this kind of clues you into how it's going to go. Like, so you're going to pronounce every single letter, but even just the name of their country, Deutschland, in that word, 5 consonants in a row. So it's DEUTSCHLAND.
See, that's how they won a war.
Yeah, France just saw the name and was like, all right, we give up.
No, like the precision required to say the name of the country.
It's like, we'll pronounce that de. And France is like, I don't know what to do with the rest of the word. We're just...
No, but like, to speak things clearly, like there's precision required even when you're drunk.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. And so like that kind of precision that you can't turn off. I think that helps. I said they won a war. They didn't win any wars. But they tried real hard in both.
Right. Yeah. They had some successes.
Yeah. No, the weird thing about French is French is
the weird thing is how you just said that word. Yeah.
French. No, that's weird also. Some people call them cheese-eating surrender monkeys. But up until World War II...
Like, well, there goes our listenership in France. Our Germany listenership's probably going up now. Like, we actually told them they won some wars and stuff, so...
Yeah, they kind of functionally did. I mean, like, in the awfulest way. No, you know what it was? I'm remembering I was like cross-pollinating like actual history and Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, I was about to say, are you thinking of Man in the High Castle?
Yeah.
Yeah. France was belligerent really badly up until World War II. Yeah.
They were all set to really, really fight for a long time. Except for that other part of the border.
Yep.
There's a parallel there, I think, for churches.
Ooh. I was wondering how we're going to bring it back.
Sick. You work so hard to protect a particular front, and then everything falls apart. And there's a thing, like there's a shift that happens where when a church is taking new ground constantly, like the church that we were a part of, there's kind of reckless abandon, which is a good thing, because you're not all that concerned about preserving what you have when you're doing that. But then there's a turning point in every organization when it gets to a point either where it becomes so big that it has to now focus on protecting itself, or from the very beginning it was focused on protecting itself and it has growth problems because of that. And once an organization switches from taking new ground to protecting ground, it starts to die. Because Jesus I don't think he was ever about protecting ground that's already been taken. Like, it was always because there was nothing tangible to protect. Maybe that's what it is. It was always the relationship or the internal connection with God, and nothing external can make that impossible to continue. You know what I mean? Like, nothing can fundamentally destroy those things.
Yeah. Except trying to protect it, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. Whenever you define the territory and say...
Yeah, because it's all...
and maybe define the hills you die on.
Right. I think it's all about... I guess maybe the way I would put it, like codifying it or canonizing it, to use a biblical term.
Yeah.
Well, it's because, like you say, like for Jesus, like the point was like not trying to establish a new religion, but I mean, you could say it wasn't even to connect people with God, but like the way I see it is like to make them realize they already were connected. So he would use like certain like methodologies, certain ways of explaining things. And you can see this like all throughout the Bible or any writings, like in any point in church history, is like they would have that same goal of like you, God, like either from their point of view actually trying to get you to connect or just to see that you're already connected. And people like throughout the whole, history would like find things, okay, that thing we did, okay, that worked. But it's like, okay, that worked for these people, but we look at like that snapshot, and especially like if it's in the Bible, we'll say, oh, well, that it's not just that worked for those people. We're just like, that's what works. So we have to keep that up. And that's where it starts to die. It was when you're worshiping, I guess the way you think of it, you're worshiping the methodology of making the connection there instead of focusing on the connection on just I think so many Christians, instead of thinking whatever it takes for you to recognize where you are in God. It's like, no, we have to honor these methods, and including in our modern context, feels like, we have to honor going to church. We have to honor listening to a sermon and singing songs and tithing, and
we have to honor how you get to God.
Yeah.
Instead of
because we look at it like, someone will say, oh, I feel so connected to God, and instead of saying that's great, it's like so many Christians no, their first reaction is, well, how did you connect to God? Because if it's not what I already had, in my, then
allow me to encourage.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've had this discussion with people who disagree with where I'm coming from and a lot of the beliefs I have, and but the way I try to explain to them is okay, even according to the Bible, which is all that you're using to kind of debate me right now, it says there's all kind of language about judging a tree by its fruit. Okay. And in the Bible, it says the fruit of the Spirit, things like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, the whole list. I said, you go down the whole list, where I am right now, I am feeling each and every one of those more than I have at any point in my entire life. So really by any biblical measure, I am so much closer to God than I ever have. But they're well, but they were more about, trying to remember the way someone actually worded it, but it was something along the lines of, well, I know your fruit's bad because I'm looking at your roots, and what you're rooted in isn't right. I'm but the thing you're telling me to be rooted in tells you to judge me by my fruit, not. So he's no, I'm judging your fruit by where I'm seeing what you're rooted in. So because of where I see what you're rooted.
But how can you see with that plank in your eye?
Apparently he couldn't, but it was
you got a root in your eye, man. Big old fat fucking root.
No, but it was more the way they were coming at it. It was okay, I don't care what you say about your fruit. Your fruit can't possibly be good because of
it doesn't measure.
Yeah. Because of what I'm choosing to measure it by. It's all right. You just kind of have to give up at some point with some people, and hope they give up on you, honestly. But yeah.
Well, that's what happened on Facebook. You decided you were hoping they'd give up on you, and then you just had to give up for them. And
seriously, first people I have ever unfriended. I think actually the only people I've ever actually unfriended on Facebook, because they basically I'm fine disagreeing with people. That's fine. There's even still people I'm friends with on Facebook who I don't just disagree, but they kind of annoy me. But whatever, I'll share some post that they like. I'm all right. Or they'll share something I still enjoy or whatever. But with those guys, they literally promised me, they told me, I would say, and they literally told me, well, as long as you keep posting things that profane the gospel, we're going to respond. I'm all right, if that's a promise.
Allow me to relieve you of that burden.
Yes, and relieve me of that burden. You're yeah. But I almost want to refriend them now, just so the gigantic backlog of things I've been posting. See how they deal with that. But that would be wrong. So, yeah.
Well, it depends why you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So one of the other things we kind of talked about, connected with church, is I think Christians have a big problem with conflating things. Going back to the Bible, we conflate the Bible with just with either with God himself, or anytime we see something in the Bible saying where it says the Word of God, we just kind of in our minds, oh, the Word of God, that's the Bible. So anytime we see something in the Bible say the Word of God, they're obviously talking about the Bible, even though the Bible didn't exist then, and they had no concept of what we currently think of as the Bible. No, the Word of God was literally just hey, God's talking. That's his words. It could be,
And when John talks about the Word of God, like in the first part of his book, like he's talking about the Word being with God, and if the Word was God, so if that's the Bible, then now you're claiming that there is like not a Trinity. What would you call that? Quadrinity.
Yeah, but it's like it's clearly talking about like Christ and like Jesus and. Like because he said like the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and then he went and talked like here, let me tell you about it. And he was telling us about Jesus, and it's like okay.
He does use the word Jesus for quite a while though. He uses only the word Christ and the Word.
Yeah,
and which was on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then he only used the word Jesus when he was talking about like life occurrences of Jesus.
Yeah, because that's kind of how I've started using like, because I grew up using the words like Jesus and Christ like interchangeably, like they're the same thing. But like the way I speak of it now is like whenever I say Jesus, I'm thinking like, okay, the literal like historical human being, who lived from whatever it was 0 to 33 AD or CE or whatever we're calling it. I don't know, but when I say Christ, I'm thinking of that. The eternal being that is like from the beginning and still exists now. Like as I don't think Jesus exists anymore. Like he was a person. Like he lived, he died, he came back to life. But then whether ascended into heaven or whatever. But like Christ is that. Like I said, that's just the verbiage I use. So like from here, like if you ever hear me using the terms Jesus and Christ, just so people know what I'm talking about. But
I heard a great distinction. I don't remember where it was, but
then we'll say it was me.
No, yeah, it was. Jesus was an avatar for Christ.
Yeah,
like completely. That's what was special about Jesus. Was that like why you can say Jesus Christ, because there was virtually no difference between Jesus and Christ. Like he was fully we're getting woo woo. Fully the Son Spirit. That's God. Like the uncreated created Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or the Spirit of creation itself. Like the true character of creation.
Yeah.
We just lost a lot of people.
That's all right. We're going to bring them back, because I want to talk about money. It's like I don't remember when we started, but we may be.
This might be a two-part.
Yeah.
No, so first, before we go on to money, church.
Yeah, but we can say that for another time if you want. But
so if Christ is kind of like the universal, like true spirit of humanity or creation, also, then like I think church is everyone. Like everyone's in it, but not everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of showing them that the new covenant is different than the old one they had, and like it's a new, better one. No, it's just like a reiteration. It's a redo. It's like a circle. When do you reach the end of a circle? Then you just reach the point where it starts again. So it's like old covenant, new covenant. It's not like the old one was bad and stupid. It's kind of the same covenant. It was made obvious at one point. Most people didn't get it. Then it was made. Then I was like on Sinai with the Ten Commandments, and Moses came down. And he's like, "All you people, why don't you get it? I will kill 3,000 of you." And then you say, "Moses, I don't know if you got it." And so then there's another point where it was like super obvious, like the most obvious, I think, with Jesus. And I think everybody has those kinds of moments in their life where like it's super obvious, and then you get some of it, don't get all of it, and it circles back around, and there's another moment where it's super obvious, and it's not a complete do-over, and everything else before this moment is different. No, it's a reiteration of things that could have been obvious all along, but just weren't.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of like before and after Jesus, I think it's more of an unfolding of Jesus. And so like when we look at people like coming in to join the church, and you were this and now you're this, and like yes, you're a new creation, and there's recreation.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just old recreation, boom. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we'll probably have to say, like, if we want to talk money, and particularly like with tithing in the church and everything, maybe say that for another time. But I think more just to connect, like, let's talk about how like we conflate so many things. Like I said, so we conflate like the Word of God with the Bible, and I think we also conflate like the work of God with like whatever the church is doing or whatever is being done by what's officially titled a church. Like, oh, that's automatically like God's work. So when it comes to things like tithing and like how we give our money, like we say, well, you should. And I do agree with the idea of like, giving my money towards, God's work or whatever God is doing. But the idea of like just kind of doing like an automatic, like one for one, like just saying, well, if you give your money to a church, then you're giving it to God. I'm like, not necessarily. Because, I mean, because you have to think of, I think we get too hung up on whether or not something has like the God label on it or like the Christian label on it, and think it has to have that in order to be considered, the work of God or the work of the kingdom or whatever you want to call it. Because I think if you just look at specifically what Jesus told us to care about and what Jesus told us to do and the type of people he told us to look after and how to treat people, I think just as long as you're doing that, like whether or not you give him credit or glory for it. And that's the other thing, like people say, like, we'll do something, well, we're doing this for the glory of God. And it's like, well, what does that mean other than you're just saying it's for the glory of God, like to check a box? Like what difference does that actually make that you said it's for the glory of God? It's like the glory of God is, like, to me, the glory of God is people. The glory of God is people living in, like, loving relationship with people. Like, if God is love, then if we want to show the glory of God, we are to be love. And whether or not we call it God or call it, well, we're doing it because of Jesus, it doesn't matter. Like, if yeah.
I think Paul said that too. Like, we are the glory of God. It's one of those phrases that's never quoted. But yeah. But it's one of those ones where you're like, what? That's kind of game changing. Or like, we live and move and have our being in God.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a hugely impactful one.
Yeah.
What was I just thinking? Oh, you were talking about the glory of God, kind of like, almost like, what even is that? And it reminded me of last week at group. I think you were walking. I think you were walking Greg out to get the air fryer. Or no, Forrest. You working Forrest out?
It was Greg.
It was Greg.
Yeah.
Did the air fryer.
Yeah, Greg gave me the air fryer. Thanks, Greg. We've already used it. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
And so Forrest asked, it's like, he motions for a beer from Jeremy's cooler, and so Jeremy opens it, and Forrest goes over, and he's like, so it's like, well, I'll take whatever you don't want, and Jeremy's like, this isn't about what I want, this is about what you want, man. He's like, you take whatever you want, and I was like, what if it's that way with God? Where God's like, because that was a very kind thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I got this cooler full of beer, and like you can have whatever,
yeah.
And it was all good beer.
Yeah, God is a lot like Jeremy and his beer.
Yes, he'll be on eventually.
Yeah, I mean we've mentioned him in every episode so far, so
that's true.
Yeah,
and we nearly had him on. What, your house last week?
Well, that was another thing. We accidentally did a we accidentally did a podcast episode with him there. We just weren't recording. So.
So yeah, what if God says like, no, this isn't about me. This is about you. What do you want? Like, if that's generous for someone to have that attitude about beer, how much more so would God's attitude be that about everything?
Yeah.
Because then, like, ultimately what we want, I think, is what God wants. That's what's behind everything. It's just we have terrible ways of getting there often.
True.
Like, I want those good things. Here's a terrible way to try to get a good thing.
Christianity.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like sex, but you said Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of similar, really. Kind of. Sex is a good thing, right? All right, but then you try to get it in like a way that's all about you. Is that kind of how church is? Like, you go to a church and it's all about you, really? But not in the way God kind of wants it to be, maybe? Because you're still saying, like, no, this is about you, and really it's about you.
Yeah, but also, like, not just you, like, individually, but I think maybe, I don't know if this is just, like, an American church problem, but, like, I think we've severely downplayed, like, the communal, like, kind of collective nature.
Yeah.
Of how, like, I mean, think about the way we were, like Jesus is our personal Lord and Savior.
Yeah, he never said that.
Yeah, and so it's all about, like, my relationship with God.
Or your relationship with God, and because of mine, I can speak into yours.
Yeah. So it's all about everyone building their own individual relationship with God. So it's this weird combination of very individualistic, but it all has to be done by each individual, but in the same way as everyone else. But it's still individual, but you have to do it the same way all the rest of the individuals are doing it.
So yeah, we're trying to get to it's all about the us, but it's instead of like there being a singular collective us, it's more like, no, the us is a collective of individuals with their individual things, and then we all stand in a group theologically.
Right. But again, you have to be your individual self the same way the rest of us are being an individual self. But then that's what, like, separates us. Well, if you're doing it differently, well, then you're not in. Like, you're something separate. But where it's supposed to be more like...
I just had the weirdest analogy.
Cool.
I combined it with the sex analogy. Because in my head, I've been trying to, like, connect that ever since I said that. And so it's just like... So instead of, like, having sex, it's more like people standing next to each other masturbating. It's kind of like, you don't have to. Because They're right there. It's like, no, I have to, though.
Now, like I said, I don't want to tell people what to do. To quote Matt Hill, I'm not a masturbation coach.
Good callback.
But I must confess, I did listen to both of our episodes recently while I was out, working, delivering, mostly just because, we're going to be recording again, and I don't really remember what I said. There's some more just what did we already talk about? So trying not to repeat myself too much.
Well, we'll do that anyway.
Yeah, so get used to it.
We like to retell stories.
Well, they're good stories.
Yeah.
And we tell them so damn well. But,
like reruns in my head.
Yeah, so, all right, well, in the interest of me not having to edit too much, anything else you want to add to kind of tie this all up or wrap it together to mix a couple
maybe
metaphors?
It's also like an intro into maybe another topic.
Well, good. We need more topics.
Which reminds me, Rob Bell's book, Everything is Spiritual.
It is.
He listen to the audiobook version because it's just better because it's basically tangents inside his brain, and so it's just better in his own words, own voice. I mean,
is he reading it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I always love audiobooks when they're read by the author. I feel it's always so much better.
Well, and it seems like it's written like it's spoken word anyway.
Yeah.
But it seems like so the beginning of the book could also be an ending of the book, and the ending of the book could also be the beginning of the book. And it's just great, but yeah, the whole thing of the ending is the beginning of the topic. So the church, that's you, that's me,
and you,
kind of everybody. Jesus, that's you, that's me. It's also everyone. They just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite things. Okay,
we didn't touch this. Let me get it out real fast. The body of Christ, we are the body of God, right? That's a metaphor, but it's also the closest we can get to a fact.
Yeah, it's
without pigeonholing it.
Yeah, it's like a literal metaphor.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
So we are the physical presence of God.
Yeah, which
that's not sacrilegious. That's it sounds like it should be, but what does the body of Christ mean if it doesn't mean that?
Well, of course it was sacrilegious. That's why Jesus was crucified.
Right.
So so some of my favorite things that Jesus ever said was, "As the Father sends me, so I am sending you."
Yeah.
And then when Jesus said, "I am the light of the world," but then also said, "You are the light of the world."
Yep. I'm you, you're me. I and the Father are one, so that means you and the Father are one.
Yeah, and when he was in Gethsemane praying, that's what he prayed. He prayed that they would all be one as you and I are one. So he's yeah.
Which is I don't think saying that they weren't already is that there's the now and not yet, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real reality now. And then when you realize it, that's the next thing.
Yeah.
Often when people say when they say now and not yet as a theological term, it comes across more like now but really not yet.
Yeah. It's more like it's not yet, but we kind of hope for it now. I think that's really kind of closer to what is usually meant by it. So it's like we're living now as if it's true, but we know it's not. But we're going to live that way, which in a way is like kind of truer than they think it is, because that's really kind of what makes it real, is that we live as if it is. So that but then like, no, that's just like a hope thing. No, if we live as if it's real, that literally makes it real. But so yeah.
I gotta find that thing where I unpacked where Paul was talking about hope for things yet unseen. It's awkwardly worded when it's awkwardly worded when it's like translated into English, and I try to keep it to as close to the original word order as possible. But like I really unpacked that, and it's like, yeah, we hope for the things that are unseen, but unseen doesn't mean they're not already not already a thing.
Yeah.
Like in order to unsee something, there has to be something for you to unsee, for you to not see. Like if you know what I mean?
I think
it's like, you can't see me, right, John Cena?
Oh, jeez.
It's like, if you're hiding something and you can't see it, that means there's something is to see. You're like, there is something to see.
Right.
I Yoda'd myself there for a second.
Never Yoda yourself.
Is that a euphemism for masturbation?
It is now.
Yoda yourself. I think it might be, but I don't understand why.
All right then. This is as good a way as any to wrap up, I guess. No, but I guess like
so church is not Yodaing yourself next to one another.
Right. but I guess my little like way to part it like
for us from Yodaing.
So good. So good.
Again, search results. Where does that put us?
Oh, geez. If that starts trending. But
you all know where it started.
But yeah, I guess maybe the way I would kind of at least attempt to wrap up is like, I just remembered like a conversation I had with someone like years ago. Like it was still when I was in very much like the mode of like, no, it's all about the church. It's all about the, getting people in the faith. And, I was having a conversation with some people, and one of the guys was talking about like, I don't remember what kind of church he grew up in, but it was very like religious and legalistic, and he just had like no interest in it. But I could tell there was something about him that like, even if he wouldn't have said it, it's almost like there was still that desire for having that connection with God, like whatever God was. Like it's like he knew, okay, whatever like the church was telling me God is, like I have no interest in that. He's like, I have interest in like what's real. And I remember like telling him, look for God outside of the church and outside of Christianity, because you can still find him there. And I remember at the time that was almost like my attitude was more, okay, look for him somewhere, and then once you find him, he'll bring you back into church, But I was like, no, if you look for him and find him outside and you want to, stay there, stay outside. Like if that's where you're at, if that's where he's at, or she, it's like,
Greg Boyd has I remember this before and I didn't say it, he has a good analogy for confusing methods with God. He calls it confusing the map for the territory.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which is interesting because he says things where I wonder where he'll end up eventually with his thinking, because sometimes he uses examples and then he'll still stick very like closely to like Christian theology.
Yeah.
And like, well, you can have a ton of maps that all lead to the same place with different routes. And maybe just one of those maps is Christianity. But all of the good maps kind of look like Jesus.
Yeah.
Maybe not a Jewish version. It could be a Chinese version.
Yeah.
You know, or an Indian version.
Yeah, or African or Brazilian or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's like what I would say to someone, like, if you feel like you have like found God, and like, don't feel the pressure to take whatever you found and try to cram it in like a church context or a Bible context or even a Christianity context, or even not even, or any kind of religious context. Like, even if you don't want to call it God, like, whatever, you know, if it's whatever you're in contact with and whatever you're learning and discovering is drawing you closer, and like, to connect with other people and to connect with like the part of yourself that you feel like is like your truest self and like your most loving and genuine self, like, call it whatever the hell you want, like, just keep at it, you know. Yeah, that's how I would kind of wrap up my feelings on the subject, I guess.
Oh, and find a group of people or a community that accepts that.
Yes.
And helps you get to that next step that is like increasing awareness of your closeness with God.
Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of Christians, like, you honestly do see like church as so important, because that is such an important aspect. So, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying it's like a lazy approach, but like, it's an easy, okay, it's like automatic community. Okay, I join a church, like, boom, I'm in, done, you know. But
which is a lot of the appeal. That's a lot of the appeal.
Yeah. But and then once you're in, you feel like, well, I can't find this outside of this church, so I have to stay here. But like, no, like, but so is, yeah, like you said, yeah, find connection with other people, like, and it could be in a church, it could, yeah, just be in, you know, I mean, it's not to sound like, you know, too much like advertising, plugging, like, yeah, like, if you, that's why we want people to like join our Facebook group. Like, that's what we're, you know, I think that's part of our goal, is to help people find that community, but they don't want to do it in like some sort of like official, like, religious context. You know, they just want it just to be with other people naturally. So, and if that's not our group for you, then yeah, totally fine too. If you just like listen in, but you don't want to join that, yeah, totally. Just find somebody that you can, you know, talk to and be yourself, and keep searching for all the kinds of things that you're searching for and the kind of connections you're wanting to build. And yeah, we hope you all find that somewhere.
Yeah. I like that angle where like we're exploring community, like what does it look like? It's like, what is church that isn't church, and religion that isn't religion? Like, what is that new thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, let's find out. So.
Owen watches this RC car channel on YouTube, and every time right before something goes horribly wrong with the RC car, like it's like they're in a skate park with it, and it's like done all these jumps, and right before it wrecks, they play this sound clip of this guy going, and so when you said, yeah, let's figure that out or see what that is or whatever, and in my head I heard,
Is that how we should just end every episode now? Just
steal that guy's clip. His audio.
Yeah.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure it's.
No, I'm fine with you just doing it. That's
We should see how that flows into the music.
Yeah. We'll try it. All right, let's go. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Oh, you gotta do it now.
I'm not. Yay.
Yay! Hooray for things.
I like things. So.
We just did a thing.
Did we?
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. I don't know if I was doing it right. I have no idea. I've never heard it. I need to pee and go to bed. So.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Mm-hmm. In that order.
Yeah, you don't want to go to bed then pee.
I mean, being a baby was fun and all, but...
Yeah, I was going to say at least not yet. We've got a few more decades before that's a reality.
Yeah. That reminds me of one of my favorite jokes. Like, let's take on the old question. Oh, so what do you wear, boxers or briefs? Depends.
Oh, by the time we get there, our generation, we're going to have boxer brief depends. Because it's all tighty-whitey based right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you can't have them boxer based, and then it all just falls out.
Yeah, or you just have, it's all just in weird places, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there's something keeping shape, then, it's like the liquid containing gel stuff is just going to, inflate in weird places. You don't have anything trying to shape it.